Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And that's right, you read the title and you know exactly what it is that I'm reviewing. Yeah, because, I gotta tell you, this one film from Paramount Pictures in the mid/late 1980s, where this film simplified whom would star in it and would make them big time names and such. And for me personally, because I knew, of course, that I was going to enjoy this movie, and boy, having now seen it, and it did not disappoint, of course. So that's right. From 1986, Paramount's Top Gun. Yes, Top Gun. Couldn't think of anything else to say, specific to say, and for this introduction, but this, yeah. So, Paramount's 1986's Top Gun, directed by the late, legendary Tony Scott, the brother of Ridley Scott, and with a lot of big names, and what this movie has to offer, centering on, fighter pilots, in the Navy, and what goes on with each of them, most notably, one of the most, top characters, Maverick, So, like I said, I knew for a long time that whenever I would get around to watching Top Gun, I knew, of course, that, it would not be a disappointment for me. I would enjoy it, and yes, of course, I was right. Just everything from beginning to end. With Top Gun's story, its characters, the funny and hard-hitting emotions, and what our main character, Pete Mitchell, but he goes by Maverick, what he goes through. And those at Top Gun, the school, how they feel towards his attitude. Not his flying, it's his attitude. And, how dangerously he flies those jets, but at the same time, he's really good at what he does in his way. And the characters that he would interact with, he would find love at first sight, and a fellow wingman, his co-pilot, and, the fact that there's, a brotherhood, and, they each consider each other family, and when there's tragic losses, mainly one, and some things where, how this movie takes, and just what more do I have to say? Top Gun Maverick, the first Top Gun film, I don't want to get mixed up on the Top Gun films. 1986's Top Gun. It's a really good film, and if I remember correctly, because I think my parents especially, they each told me, especially my mom, because, the first Top Gun film being, like a chick flick or something? I don't know. I mean, I guess kind of, but at the same time, I don't really view it that way, and you know what I'm talking about, and like I said, where this film, it's, if I'm using the word right, solidified, you know what I'm trying to say, it's submitted or something, you know what I'm trying to say, this movie, overall, my point being, is that Top Gun is what made those who would be the main stars, from, say, Tom Cruise, the late Val Kilmer, this movie would make them big-time names, and because most of them, pretty much most of the entire cast of Top Gun, the young guys, some of the movies that they were doing in the 1980s, it didn't really make them go big or anything, but it was not long until, in 1986, when Top Gun happened. Also, can't forget to mention that, the late Don Simpson, and most notably Jerry Bruckheimer, them involved in the Top Gun film, and like I said, Tony Scott. What those guys would bring to Top Gun with, and most notably Tony Scott, his direction, and just what more do I have to say? 1986's Top Gun, it's a really good masterpiece of a film. Wouldn't you say so? Alright, so, as always, for me, read the description / the story. The Top Gun Naval Fighter Weapons School is where the best of the best train to refine their I might be mispronouncing it again, you know me sometimes, flying skills. When hotshot fighter pilot Maverick is sent to the school, his reckless attitude and cocky demeanor, put him at odds with the other pilots, especially the cool and collected Iceman. But Maverick isn't only competing to be the top fighter pilot. He's also fighting for the attention for his beautiful flight instructor, Charlotte Blackwood. Alright, so getting into the film itself. So yes, and by the way, because, we have, an opening quote, technically, because, that's what it is. Basically, how the movie starts off and a description on, of this film and what this is about. It reads, on March 3rd, 1969, the United States Navy established an elite school for the top 1% of its pilots. Its purpose was to teach the last art of aerial combat, if I'm pronouncing that right too or not, and to ensure that the handful of men who graduated were the best fighter pilots in the world. They succeeded. Today, the Navy calls it Fighter Weapons School. The Flyers call it, and thus we get our main title of the film, Top Gun. That's a cool way for this movie to start off, and with that text, and then we get the title of the film. Alright, so, so where to start off? Well, obviously, because, a Navy ship out in the ocean, and, the first characters that we get are, of course, Maverick himself, Pete Mitchell. That's his real name, but going by Maverick. Being played by the one and only Tom Cruise, and his wingman, Goose, being played by Anthony Edwards. Because they're, doing some flying and training and such, practicing, and, not actually legitimately firing, but just getting the target locked on, that kind of stuff. Your, jet fighter expertise and such, me, mine's a limit. But anyways, and at a certain point, one of them, and, that's another thing, because the opening of that film, and with the jets flying in the air, you can't tell which is which and whom is in which fighter jet, so even when I was watching one or two reactions to the movie, one pointed out that, couldn't tell whom is in which jet, so neither could I, so and I'm sure the same goes for some of you. Feel free to share. But overall, at one point, one of them starts to, basically pretty much have a panic attack, and that being Cougar. Yes, Cougar, being played by John Stockwell, and, the fact that he has to take off that piece, that's attached around his mouth, and he's staring at a picture of his wife and child, fearing that, because, it seems like he may lose control, and because of his panic attack, and causing the jet to crash. And apparently, Maverick and Goose, they were supposed to land, but Maverick, he couldn't let anything bad happen to Cougar, so he disobeyed a direct order, not landing the jet, especially when it didn't have that much fuel left. So he proceeded on helping out Cougar, which he did, and thankfully Cougar, although the jet was a bit damaged when it landed, still, everything turned out okay, but not quite. And Cougar, after what happened, he resigned, he quit. And, by the way, because, Stinger, the big guy, one of the big guys of this movie, Stinger, being played by James Tolkien, what's-him-face from, the Back to the Future films, that's him, you're a slacker, you know that? Yeah, that's him. And he's done a lot more than that. I do recall that he's also in the, live-action Masters of the Universe movie, in the 80s, you know, that one. But more than that, of course, yeah. Great actor, great guy, and, you know, of course, we will know him best for, you know, the Back to the Future trilogy. So, yes, Mr. Strickland, yes, Mr. Strickland. You got a real attitude problem. You're a slacker. All right. Anyways, so Stinger, he's kind of a bit disappointed in Goose and Maverick, and after what they did, you know, despite the fact that it all turned out okay, you know, with Cougar surviving, but still. And Stinger sending Maverick and Goose to the Top Gun school, yes, and yeah, the location of the Top Gun school, yeah, because at Miramar, if I'm pronouncing that right, and yeah, there's like a description of this where, yeah, Top Gun program, the officially the United States Navy Strike Fighter Tactics program was intentionally located at the Naval Air Station near San Diego, California. Okay. All right, so, yeah. And one of the, like, iconic shots of the film where, you know, Maverick on his bike and seeing a jet fly by and just, you know, woo! Yeah, he's enjoying it. And, yeah, so, again, Maverick and Goose attending Top Gun school. And when they when they graduate, become better jet fighters and such, pilots. And some of the other characters we get at the Top Gun school. Yeah, great batch of characters, and getting to know each of them and their personalities, and that's what's so great in some movies, you know, these group of characters, no matter what, like if it's like a group of soldiers or, you know what I'm saying, just, yeah. So, one of the other big guys in this movie, and whom is a part of the Top Gun school, Commander Mike Viper, being played by Tom Skerritt. And we also have, and then the students. Yeah, like let's bring up the students because, yeah, I already mentioned Cougar. Yeah, so there's Wolfman being played by Barry Tubb, Lieutenant Rick Hollywood being played by Whip Hubley, if I'm saying that right. Yeah, and Lieutenant Commander Rick, and he was, hold on a second, yeah, because, looking at this, yeah, Lieutenant Commander, well, I'm trying to pull him up, yeah, because, just a sec, yeah, Commander Rick, but what was, Jester? Oh, okay, yeah, Lieutenant Commander, I think, yeah, another one of the big guys, yeah, just Jester, yeah, most notably, he goes by Jester, being played by Michael Ironside, and, also, there's, Slider, being played by Rick Rozovic, if I'm pronouncing the last name right, and, I don't think we get that much. I mean, with how much we get of these batch of characters at the Top Gun school, like, one of them, like, yeah, I know that, yeah, because there wasn't that much of him, but, you know, he was still good in this movie. Merlin, being played by good old Tim Robbins, yes. Yeah, I mean, Top Gun being one of those films that, you know, made Tim Robbins go big time, but it was especially, like, say, later on when he did, like, say, The Shawshank Redemption. That's another biggie for Tim Robbins. But anyways, Sundown, being played by Clarence Gillard Jr., I think, yeah, I'm saying that right. Stinger, being played by, oh, yeah, I already said Stinger, sorry. Chipper, being played by Adrian Pasdar, and another big guy at the Top Gun school, Air Boss Johnson, being played by Duke Straude, yes. Yeah, so, and of course, yeah, saved him for last, yeah. Iceman himself, being played by the late, legendary Val Kilmer. And did I forget to mention that, yeah, my review of Top Gun, it is in memory of Val Kilmer. May he rest in peace, yes. So yeah, our batch of characters from the students and the big top guys, you know, who are the teachers and run the Top Gun school, most notably, you know, Air Boss Johnson, and yeah, Maverick and Goose, when they first attend school, and seems to go pretty well at first. Like, you know, even some of, like, the students, like Iceman and the others, kind of nitpicking at Maverick, most notably, but yeah. But then, like, say when they go to this local bar, and when they're all there and, you know, looking at the women and such, and there's one woman in particularly that Maverick has his eyes on. And even when he approaches her and with the help of, say, Goose, and then when everybody else joins in, singing a particular song that she knows very well and likes. And that girl that he flirts and interacts with at first, and they seem to hit it off pretty good at first. Charlie. Charlie being played by Kelly McGillis. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right specifically, but yeah. Yeah, so just, yeah, the first interactions that we get between Maverick and Charlie. Charlie, yeah, but yeah, just go with Charlie. Charlie, yeah. Yeah, again, it seems to go pretty well, and they seem to connect really well, and little does Maverick know on when the next time he's gonna meet with this girl. Yeah, because even though, yeah, after things went pretty well at the bar, well, the next day, because when they're, you know, attending school and such, and, well, you know, talking about the MIGs, yeah, I can't forget to mention about the MIGs. Well, Charlie's there. She's, an instructor at the Top Gun school, and, yeah, awkward, I guess you could say, for Maverick, you know. The fact that he hit on someone who's the teacher, and so on, just, yeah. But at the same time, it does go pretty well, just, yeah. Alright, but anyways, and a little description on, just to get out of the way, yeah, on the MiGs, yeah, because, yeah, in the 1986 film Top Gun, the fictional Soviet MiG-28, yeah, enemy aircraft was actually a repainted and modified American-made Northrop F-5 fighter jet. Yes, so, and the F-5 was chosen for its size, performance, and simplicity, yeah, making it a believable Cold War adversary. Alright, so, alright, so continuing on to speed things up some, because, yeah, the moments, to go ahead and talk about this as well, yeah, the moments where, yeah, Maverick flying in the air and practicing and, you know, with his training and, you know, walking on the targets and such, and, well, you know, his flying being very dangerous and being crazy. And, yeah, and again, because, like, some of the pilots and how they feel towards Maverick's behavior and attitude, not because of his flying, it's just, yeah, his attitude and so on. Even, like, yeah, getting, Air Boss Johnson on his nerves, even, like, there was, like, one moment where, and I know about this, where flying by, making a loud, like, wave noise and such, and causing the Air Boss Johnson, like, to spill his coffee, and just, yeah, and, like, aggravated with Goose and Maverick especially, but, yeah, overall, because luckily Maverick doesn't really get it, just, yeah. Even when, like, Air Boss Johnson, you know, I want some butts kicking, I want to kick some butts, and how he puts out it, just, it's funny. But yeah, and also, yeah, let's talk more about, say, the brotherhood relationship towards Maverick and Goose, because, yeah, it doesn't take us that long to see that, yeah, great chemistry and a great, like, relationship between Maverick and Goose. Like, they don't just treat each other like, say, you know, partners and, you know, when being fighter pilots, you know, and being in the Navy, but the fact that, you know, they consider each other like a family, and even that goes for Maverick, that telling Goose at one point in the film that he's all that he's got as family, yeah. But as for Goose, he does have a family of his own. He's got a wife and child, yeah, and we would see them a little later on in the film. But yeah, and just, you know, it's like, really shows, because there's a brotherhood between them, but having watched this movie, and what would happen very later on, it's heartbreaking. Yeah, but until I get there. But meanwhile, because, yeah, for Maverick, we talked more about Maverick and Goose. Let's talk more about, say, Maverick and Charlie, because at a certain point, Maverick is still hitting on Charlie, and she technically is, but, the fact that Maverick's the student and Charlie's the instructor slash teacher, yeah, that would not look too good on each of them, especially her. However, because the more flirting and interactions that Maverick does slash pulls on Charlie, like, even it leads to, like, say, Charlie leaving a piece of paper for Maverick, a note, and her address, technically, like, oh, yeah, she's willing to accept going on a date with him and such at her place. And yeah, because him at one point making his way to Charlie's place after, say, a small sequence where the students are playing volleyball. That was a pretty cool, fun sequence, and most of them being shirtless, and, well, I mean, yeah, especially in the hot conditions, and, just feels good to be shirtless and to play a sport, most notably volleyball. And Maverick, he can't play another round because he's got to get going. I mean, he can't say what it is, but, us, the audience, we know. And thus, making his way to Charlie's place, and, well, when they have dinner with each other, and the more interactions that they have and the dialogue between them, it goes pretty well. Then at one point, it leads up to where Maverick starts to talk about his old man, his late father, because, yeah, we learn in this movie that Maverick's late father, which being Duke Mitchell, he was a big-time guy in the Navy, and, the fact that now his son making his way there and has, in the U.S. Navy, and, yeah, there's a description on the character of Duke Mitchell, and, yeah, because he, like, even like this, like, we don't know, like, it's, an unknown actor who played Duke Mitchell, but only in portraits, yeah. But, yeah, so the dialogue that we get from, Mitchell and Maverick and Charlie, sorry, well, yeah, Mitchell being his real name, but still, overall, Maverick. We know him best as Maverick. Talking about, Maverick most notably talking about his father, and apparently it's classified on something to do with Maverick's father and what happened to him and so on. We learned that Maverick's father was sadly lost when his F4 was shot down, and well, because what all that Maverick knows about his father up until he's told more, just because well, Duke Mitchell, he had served in the Vietnam War, and the best that Maverick can say to Charlie, and the fact that she's not quite up there yet, getting into the personal files and getting knowing some personal private information, like, say, on Duke Mitchell. But, yeah, at the same time, with what, Maverick says about his late father, still, things still go pretty well between Charlie and Maverick. And also the fact that when he first arrived, he had to go to the back door, like the backyard and such, and yeah, the back door was open, and he was wanting to take a shower, but the shower had to be put on hold, and thus they had dinner, and so on. But after all that, and the conversation that they have, and when Maverick talks about his late father, he thanks Charlie for everything, but also, yeah, he has to take a shower, so yeah. And, the next time that they would run into one another at Top Gun and in an elevator and, doing their very best to keep their relationship secret and how they've been seeing one another, and the more dialogue that we get from each of them, just, yeah. And, we know that this is coming, but just when? Just, like, certain moments where, like, okay, are they gonna go for it? Are they gonna kiss? Just, like, not there yet. Just, yeah. But, yeah. And even, like, say, when, like, at one class, a subject being brought up, because it has to do with the MiG, and a report that Maverick makes, and the way he stares at, Charlie, and with the music playing, and, he has to be the student, and while Charlie is the teacher. And, something that Charlie brings up, and Maverick, his response, and, this being a report, and the risk of, that, Maverick was risking for their relationship to be known, and, Maverick, because he got a bit upset, and what happened specifically, and, he's technically kind of avoiding Charlie when she's trying to catch up to him and she's trying to talk with him. He gets on his bike, he rides off, Charlie chases after him, and he's going really fast, and so is she. And when, he confronts Charlie because he cares about his, his fellow students, and Goose and everything. They meet, they come first to him and such. And when Charlie, tells him about the report that he made and he got it right, and just, wanting to keep the relationship, secret, because again, he's the he's the student and she's the teacher, yada yada, what they say. And sure enough, when they kind of got into each other's faces, it's still good. It's all still good between them. And yes, we finally see them go for a kiss, but more than that, they make love, and so then the next morning she's still in bed, and he had to leave early, and because he did leave her a note, and judging by her face, she smiled, it was a pretty good note. And then, once again, them doing some training, flying, and of course, we get another famous moment in Top Gun, and because they, of course, I have to put on the shades for this, because I feel the need for speed. High five, just, So and to think that came after what just happened between Maverick and Charlie, I mean, unbeknownst to me, and maybe the same goes for you, because that's where we get that, one of those top iconic moments in this movie. I feel the need for speed. Also, at times when they were in the air, Goose and Maverick, Goose always quoting from that one song, and, great balls of fire. And even when later on they actually are singing that song and Goose is on piano. But until I get there and I talk more about that. All right, so, and let's go ahead and bring up, because as I said earlier, where Goose does have a family of his own, a wife and a son, yes. And at one point, they arrive and, come in for a visit. Goose's wife, Carol, there's an E at the end, being played by Meg Ryan, yep. I had forgotten at times that Meg Ryan is in Top Gun, even though her part's not that big, still, she did not disappoint. And only credited as Goose's son, they were played by, Goose's son was played by two young kids, and they were twin brothers, Aaron Weiss and Adam Weiss, if I might or may pronounce, if I'm pronouncing the last name right or wrong, me sometimes still, I might be butchering it probably, but just, Also, some of the other cast members that were uncredited, like there was an inspector who was played by Edmund, and probably more likely going to butcher more names, but yes, Edmund Kapasupin, and there was a woman, just woman, being played by Debbie Ferris. Flight captain, played by Mark Gadbois. Officers Club Patron, played by Chase Jasborn. Commander Phillips, being played by Monty Jordan, and unconfirmed, okay. And Scott, played by Scott Crambeck. Frog, played by John C. Moran, SR, and Radio Man, played by Danny Nero, and there was F5E VF126 Bandits, adversary pilot, and he also was the MiG pilot, played by Victor Spadaro, obviously the bad guys. Little Red Hen, played by Mike, I'm not going to even bother trying to pronounce that last word. And there's also, and also Volleyball Spectator, played by Wendy Wells Gunkel. Gunkel? Okay. Anyways, so as I said, Goose's wife and son coming in, and and we can tell, of course, that, Goose has got a great family. It's small, but, you know, it's still good. It's still a good family. And yes, to mention where, yeah, because, you know, Goose, most notably, he's playing by the piano at this restaurant/bar, and Goose's son is up top on the piano, and, you know, they're singing that song, you know, and you shake my nerves when you rattle my brain, that's your great balls of fire, and even Goose's wife joining in, then Maverick, and then Charlie. They're having a great time, and yeah, like, still, the relationship between Charlie and Maverick, still going great, and even, like, something that Goose's wife said, you know, take me away, just, you know, back to, you know, take me to bed and such, and Charlie taking what Goose's wife said and saying it to Maverick when later that evening they're riding on Maverick's bike, and then the bike's parked and they start to make out, just, yeah. And yeah, still, with that, and also them still attending Top Gun, and, you know, whenever, you know, flying in the air, you know, training and such, and still, Maverick being dangerous with his flying. And, you know, like I mentioned, you know, a good chunk of times in this review, where it's not Maverick's flying, it's his attitude. And when, at one point, Iceman did point that out to Maverick. And, you know, it's great to see. And, you know, even I was kind of expecting something like this to happen, but not really, no, where, you know, probably things would get out of hand. You would think, right, at first, when watching this movie, like, oh boy, like, at some point, like, and when getting under Maverick's skin, triggering him, like, something bad's gonna happen, like, things getting ugly, but not really, no, not really, because Maverick they all handle things well with one another, right, and, you know, from, say, Iceman to Maverick and such, and, yeah, they're good chemistry between all of them, and, you know, there being kind of a friendship towards all of them. So, yeah, even Iceman and Maverick. And to talk more about Iceman, because, yeah, you know, originally, and when Val Kilmer was, you know, under contract, because here's the thing, Val Kilmer wasn't interested in doing Top Gun, but he was under contract from Paramount to do this movie. But eventually, and when being there on set, being with his fellow cast members, and with director Tony Scott, he started to enjoy it. And even when reading the script and seeing that there wasn't that much for the character of Iceman, he came up with a lot of things that would be incorporated into Iceman. Iceman's backstory / his origins, and what else he would bring to Iceman, and, of course, in the final film, Iceman becoming a memorable / fan favorite in Top Gun. Right? Just, yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, because, like, yeah, a little bit of this is mentioned in the film, and of course that goes for Iceman, like, you know, them being, like, having abusive childhoods, and that goes for Iceman because, Iceman's father ignored him, so, yeah. It's unfortunate, but, you know, the character's later years, and when they would make their way to Top Gun, being in the U.S. Navy, yeah, better than ever, yeah. Yeah, so, again, it's great to see that, you know, things not getting out of hand between Maverick and his fellow classmates, you know, at Top Gun. Yeah, classmates. That's the word I'm looking for. You know, just, they take things well with each other, and, you know, at times, you know, just picking on one another for fun, just, you know, but, you know, still, the fact with Maverick, how he is with flying, but, you know, they managed to handle it well, and I'm glad to see that even, like, say, the big top guys running Top Gun, like, you know, most notably Air Boss Johnson and, Viper, yeah, they handle it pretty well with Maverick, so yeah. They know he's a handful, but there's just something about him. Right? There's something about Maverick that just is good. And knowing his late father. There you go. And yeah, because Viper and some of the others, they knew Maverick's father, and when they served alongside with him, most notably Viper, yeah. Alright, anyways, so to speed things up still some, yeah. At one point, and yeah, this is where we now come up to where things get dark, depressing, heart-wrenching. At one point, when things seem to go pretty well, and, with Maverick and how he flies and Goose being with him, and Iceman is one of those that's up in the air and, one of them pretending to be the enemy and to lock target and such, yeah. Well, at one point, and yeah, even though, because when it's going pretty well and with Maverick's flying as usual, well, at one point, something goes horribly wrong with Maverick and Goose's fighter jet and such, and the engines start to break and there's like a little explosion, like fire and such, and Iceman noticing this and mayday, mayday, and something's wrong with Maverick and Goose and and how they're flying, and and up to when they ignite their parachutes and such, they launch out of the jet, igniting their parachutes, and when they make their way into the ocean, and, well, Goose is very badly wounded. I mean, how? Because they were ignited and well, sometimes certain things could end up badly when, igniting your parachute, you're launched out of your jet, you just never know. You never know what the consequences would be when stuff like that happens, and when you ignite your parachute out of your jet. But Maverick, he's okay, and he's holding on to Goose in the ocean, not wanting to let go at first, even when a medical chopper arrives, and they have to take Goose in. And, we're hoping, right, as we're watching the movie, especially those of us for the first time watching Top Gun, we are hoping that maybe Goose will recover. And this man has a wife and son. And the fact that, such good chemistry between him and Maverick, Goose dies. He does not make it. Yeah. And when, Maverick is informed, but he knows this by now, and for a little while, and even up to the third act of the film, Maverick, and when I was watching this for the first time, I was like, oh no, because please, this might go in the direction, but no, thankfully it doesn't. Maverick, feeling that this is his fault, but later on, and even when there's a court session, that we would get the U.S. Navy sometimes, court hearing and such, because it wasn't, in fact, Maverick's fault. Something did go wrong in the fighter jet that they were in. And even when, those from, Charlie, Viper, and Iceman, they give their condolences and, they feel sorry for Maverick, and even, Charlie most notably, telling Maverick that she's here if, there's anything that she can do to help, and so on. But Maverick, in his world being a total depressing thing, and just feeling that it's his fault, he's to take the blame for. But again, even though it was an accident, he is assured that this isn't his fault. And thank goodness it isn't, But at the same time, we can understand what Maverick's going through, but and even when at one point he does quit, he resigns because he can't take this anymore, and feeling totally responsible for his brother. And again, if it's not obvious that, Goose and Maverick, they considered each other brothers, feeling responsible for the loss of his brother, Goose. And even when, Maverick paying a visit to Goose's wife, now widow, Carol, and Carol, not blaming Maverick, and even mentioning to Maverick that Goose would have flown by himself, at a certain point, and how she puts at it, and the emotion in Maverick and Carol, each of them, in the emotion in their eyes, and when they hug a couple of times, it's just heart-wrenching. And the fact that Goose's son is gonna grow up without his father, it's devastating, and like I said, when at a certain point, and it's discovered that Maverick, he resigned, he quit Top Gun and wants no part of it anymore, and then at one point, Charlie, she went to find Maverick, she located him at a bar, and Maverick, he was gonna, get out of here and probably just, ride on his bike, or take an airplane. And Charlie trying her best to, tell Maverick that it's not his fault, and, just to get over with what happened and to let Goose go. And, being the best at the best, how she puts at it. But Maverick being totally blind by his guilt and depression. Just, yeah. Charlie sadly had no luck trying to get to Maverick, to get him to wake up. And not to mention that Charlie was, and is about to make it big time, in a big position, and at Washington, yeah, with what she brought up earlier, that she's hoping to get up there, and she does so. And technically, this would be the last time that Charlie and Maverick would see one another, for now. Charlie, yeah, because when she leaves, and Maverick just, yeah. But, thankfully, at a certain point, and to speed things up still, because, yeah, Maverick, he did come back. He did, rightfully so. And he finally snapped out of it, even when he paid a visit to seeing Viper. And Viper, he gave the information to Maverick about what specifically happened to his father, Duke Mitchell and such. And also, we do get a brief slash small appearance of Viper's family. Like, yeah, his wife, Mrs. Metcalf, if I'm saying that right, yeah, being played by Linda Ray Jurgens, yeah. And some of the other cast members to mention, yeah, because Sprawl, yeah, played by Brian Sheehan. Because even, there was another moment I remember now, because where one of the black pilots actually was a wingman with, co-pilot with Maverick, and, when Maverick was once again flying and, training and such, and not taking the target, and just, yeah, and I will target and fire when I'm ready, just how he puts at it, just, yeah, letting out a bit of emotion and such, and it doesn't get out of hand, thankfully. But anyways, as I was saying, because, yeah, and as I mentioned, yeah, Sprawl being played by Brian Sheehan. There's also the Inquiry Commander, played by Ron Clark. Bartender, played by Frank Spezis. And Perry Seidenthal, yeah, played by Pete Pettigrew. And Radio Operator, played by Troy Hunter. And also Admiral T.J. Cassidy, played by T.J. Cassidy. That's cool. Okay, so my point being is, and where I'm at, because, yeah, Viper, when there's a moment between Viper and Maverick, and, Viper risking it on giving some information to Maverick about his late father, because obviously, yeah, Viper, big time and knowing some private personal information, yeah, because Viper, yeah, because he tells Maverick, and there's a description right here, because, yeah, telling Maverick, and yeah, because because right here, yeah, Viper tells Maverick that Viper served with Duke, his late father, while both were assigned with VF-51 aboard the USS Orsakani, yeah, and yeah, when Viper reveals the then classified details surrounding Duke's plane being shot down, and that Viper witnessed Duke's heroic actions before Duke's F-4 Phantom II was shot down. Yeah, so that's where Viper gives Maverick the information on his father, and yeah. And just overall, the dialogue between Viper and Maverick, really good, and when, yeah, after that, Maverick would make his way back into the Navy and to Top Gun, and up to when, yes, graduation happens. Iceman and Hollywood, Wolfman, and the others, they've made it big time, and graduating and such. And I think, yeah, that technically goes the same for Maverick. But yeah, mostly Maverick being there to congratulate them. So no, he didn't technically graduate yet, but still, because yeah. And it doesn't take too long for Iceman, Wolfman, Hollywood, and even Maverick being assigned to a specific mission, and where most notably Maverick would once again meet up with Stinger. Yes, we would see Stinger yet again, and the assignments they're given, the mission and such, yeah. And to speed things up still, because this is where, yeah, actually, as I recall, like, you know, coming face to face with, like, an enemy, incoming enemy craft, and the MiG and such, and, well, those being sent into the air to take on the enemy, and, well, yeah, that goes for Maverick, and when he helps out a fellow, pilot, and just, yeah, I mean, overall, because then they actually fire torpedoes and missiles, and in the end, because they succeed, I mean, of course we knew this was coming, right? That, you know, they would succeed on taking down the enemy, and, you know, the jet blowing up and such, just, yeah, it's awesome. And right there, because, you know, Maverick, he did a great job. He succeeded, and, you know, and when it's over, and when landing back down, everybody's there to applaud and congratulate Maverick, even say, most notably, Iceman, just, yeah. And a moment between Stinger and Maverick, and where, yeah, I mean, Stinger congratulating Maverick, but also Maverick, you know, considering on going back to Top Gun, but as an instructor, and, you know, God help, God, good luck to that, however Stinger says it to Maverick, but yeah. And that's great to see, you know, what Maverick's going to do next. Be an instructor at Top Gun. And obviously, teach them exactly like what he has done, you know? And maybe possibly they can be in his footsteps and how he, you know, when flying in the air and so on, just, yeah. Yeah, and towards the end of the film, because Maverick having a drink, and there's one song that plays on a jukebox, and then should have seen it coming, because, I mean, obviously, that wouldn't be the last we would see of Charlie, right? Yeah, because she pops in, she knew where to find Maverick, and she did hear on what had recently happened with Maverick, and what he did flying in the air, and yep, they reconnect once again, and some dialogue that they said to each other, and when they first met, just, yeah. You know, just what a great way to end it off, and them reconnecting, and the credits, and yeah, because, you know, we would occasionally see this in some movies where we would see footage of the cast members and their names come up, you know, that whole thing. And that was great that, you know, how it was done in Top Gun, and the last thing we see is two jets flying, and as the sun sets, and yeah, the credits roll, and yeah, just a great way to end off Top Gun right there. Yeah. The first Top Gun film from 1986. It's a masterpiece, don't you think? Just, yeah, everything about it from beginning to end. The story, the plot line, and what goes on in this film, and the cast of characters, great talented people that were in this, from Tom Cruise, Kelly McGillis, Val Kilmer, Anthony Edwards, Tom Skerritt, and Tim Robbins, and yeah, Meg Ryan, James Tolkien, you know, and everybody else. Just, yeah, they were all fantastic. Great cinematography, and when you know, seeing our characters flying in the air, and with Tony Scott's direction, the music and score, the songs that were played and featured in Top Gun, the funny / emotional, heart-wrenching moments, and that especially goes for when, yeah, we sadly lose Goose. Yeah, and when things in the end turn out better than ever, especially for Maverick. Even, like, say, when he, forgot to mention this, where he kept, like, you know, two, like, you know, like, navy necklaces, you know, those, and one of them, of course, being Goose's, and then at one point, he throws them out in the ocean. Yeah. Yeah, just, what more do I have to say? Everything about 1986's Top Gun. It's really good, you know, an 80s classic, one of Tom Cruise's top best films, and one of Tony Scott's top best films that he's directed, and that goes for, say, you know, Val Kilmer, one of his top best films that he's been in, everybody else that was in this, and, you know, and as I said, Top Gun is what made most of them go big time, and what they would do next after Top Gun, yeah. Just again, overall, Top Gun, the first one from 1986, again, a masterpiece. Don't you agree? And I'm giving Top Gun, well, yeah. Okay, yeah, 8 out of 10 stars. Yes, 8 out of 10 stars for Top Gun. The first one, of course. Yes. And what about you guys? What did you think of 1986's Top Gun itself? What was your first experience watching this movie? Like, maybe say on video, DVD, or if any of you got to see it on the big screen, special screenings of Top Gun. Is it one of your top favorite films to have Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer? What are some of your favorite moments that you did not see coming and were just like, oh, please, no? And yeah, that especially goes for, the tragic death of Goose. Yeah. And just, and your favorite funny moments and certain things that happen in Top Gun, your favorite lines, quotes, and of course, most notably quoting, "I feel the need for speed." Overall, what do you think of 1986's Top Gun itself, and with what I've had to say, my review, and what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of 1986's Top Gun. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And stay tuned later tonight, because what I will be reviewing next, 10 years after Tom Cruise made a name of himself in a Paramount Pictures film, he would once again make a name of himself in another Paramount Pictures film, and this would be the start / beginning of something that's one of the biggest things from Tom Cruise's acting career, where he stars in the first installment where he plays a character whom does missions that are impossible. Yeah, is it not obvious what I'm talking about and the best I can describe? Yeah, Again, stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out. I feel the need for speed. High five.